Hey guys, it's Camille, and today's video is going to be a tad bit different. This video has been in the works since like February and March, and I am so happy it's finally done. And I had actually briefly talked about making this video back in my update video in, I want to say April. I think was the last update video, it was in April. And I may have mentioned that I might turn this into a series, and while I've been editing this, what I had filmed anyway, I decided, you know what, I'm making this a series. I have way too much fun with this, and I'm so excited to make more of these. So without further ado, I want to welcome you guys to my brand new series, The Amateur's Journey into Customizing. I have done doll customizing in the past. Blackhead, Whisper, Michael Myers, the Demon Girl, the Zombie Girl, Mrs. Beachy, they're all custom dolls of mine. Even though I've made custom dolls before, I'm not exactly a professional, hence the reason why this is called The Amateur's Journey, because I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I've rerooted dolls before, and I've never done a full face-up except for one doll, and that was an experiment. And now, mind you, I can't draw to save my life, and it's not pretty. And I'm not the best seamstress. I mean, I can sew, but I'm not the greatest at sewing doll clothes. I can at least connect fabric together with thread, so... But even with that being said, I love the idea of doll customizing. Being able to alter a doll's entire appearance to make something that's truly unique and one of a kind is just fascinating to me. And so I thought that maybe filming my progress would be a lot of fun. It turned out to be a lot of fun too, so... And if it wasn't for the doll that I'm going to show you guys today, I wouldn't even be filming this right now, because it was honestly getting the inspiration to create this particular doll that got me to thinking of making this series, so... You can thank me for that. So now with all that being said, it's time for me to unveil the doll that pretty much started this series. So today's custom doll is the Other Mother. The Other Mother is the antagonist from the movie Coraline. Now, Coraline is a stop-motion animated film based on the book of the same name by Neil Gaiman. Just to sum up the movie real quick, basically it's about a girl named Coraline who's bored of her neglectful parents. She finds a parallel universe inside of a little door inside of her new apartment that resembles much of her own world, but better. And the only odd thing about it is that all of its inhabitants have big black buttons for eyes. A couple of those inhabitants happen to be other versions of her parents, which is where the Other Mother comes in. Now, like I mentioned earlier, she's the antagonist, which basically means villain. And she is a very creepy villain. I was about 10 or 11 when the film came out in theaters, and I freaking loved it. Now, the Other Mother's appearance alone is very frightening, and she also changes throughout the entire film, going from relatively creepy to shit-your-pants terrifying. However, despite that, I do love the look of the movie and the character designs. I especially love the Other Mothers, so much so that I decided to make a doll inspired by the character. The doll that I chose to transform into the Other Mother was a Duchess Swan doll from Ever After High. The Ever After High bodies resemble the character design from the film so much I had to use them. That and Duchess was the only doll that was pale enough for my liking. I began the transformation process by starting with the simplest part, her button eyes. Since the Other Mother doesn't have any actual eyeballs, all I had to do was give her shiny black buttons. So I dig through my bag of buttons that I got from Hobby Lobby to find some small black buttons. I wanted them to be small enough to resemble the film's design, but also big enough to cover the sculpted parts of the doll's eye area. I then took a needle and some black thread and threaded the needle through the holes of the buttons. This will give the buttons the appearance that they're sewn on the doll's face. I already removed the doll's eye paint off camera. This is where I want the eyes to go, but they're not going to be that wonky. This was just me trying to get a general idea of where I wanted to place the buttons when I glued them on. Before I glue the buttons on, I chop off the doll's hair. The Other Mother has jet black hair, and Duchess's was more of a dark brown with colored streaks, so I figured I should reroot her. To make sure that I get all of her hair, I used some tweezers to pull out the individual plugs. I also shoved them inside of the head to kind of scrape against the inside of her scalp. I also used pliers as well because they're generally easier, and at the time I was making her, I didn't have any needle nose pliers, so I just kind of used what I had. She now has a clean head. I'm now taking 100% acetone nail polish remover to remove her lipstick. You know, because rather than just, painting over the existing paint, I gotta make things complicated and paint them on from scratch. Now I'm gonna glue the buttons on using some good old tacky glue. She's starting to look like a spawn of Satan already. I then let the glue dry before I start painting her lips on. Now the glue at this point is almost dry, so now it's time for me to paint on her lips. The other mother's lips are a rich red color, but the red that I had was too bright for what I was going for, so I mixed in some black paint to darken it up a bit. I also find that thinning the acrylic paint with water makes it easier to apply to the doll's face, and to help clean it up when mistakes are made, which, trust me, a lot were made. To make matters even more difficult, I also had to try and paint on more of a smile than a neutral expression. This took several times to get the lips right, what a shock, and it unfortunately left a reddish stain around her mouth. But she still looks pretty nice. I also added her beauty mark off camera. I gave her red nail polish with the bright red acrylic paint that I had on hand. I found this varnish in my mom's stash of paint, and I decided to apply it to the doll's lips, nails, and buttons. I figured applying it to the buttons would keep the thread from ever unraveling. Now that the doll's face was finished, it was time for the reroot. But the hair wouldn't be here for a few days, so instead, it's time to work on her outfit. I found these two different fabric packs at Michael's, a black and white polka dotted one and a red one. I made a form-fitting skirt by sewing two pieces of fabric together, hemming the top and bottom, and sewing it to fit the doll's body. The skirt cannot be removed as the doll is sewn into it. The other mother's skirt has these triangles sewn on the back. I believe it was their clever way of foreshadowing what she really is at the end of the film, which, spoilers, she's a big spider-like witch. Good job, movie. Good job. Now I'm going to attempt to make at least 3 of these triangles to sew on the doll. The first one is already complete, as you can tell, while the second and third ones are not quite finished yet. I just glued 3 or 4 pieces of the red fabric together and glued on a border made from the polka dotted fabric. I sewed 2 of the corners of the biggest triangle to her skirt and then sewed the second triangle above the first one. I make sure that only those corners of the triangles are sewn to the skirt because I wanted the pieces to move like they did in the film. Whenever she walked around in that skirt, they kind of bounced up and down along with her. But before I can apply the third triangle, my hair came in. I ordered some doll hair from dollyhair.com. I ordered doll hair from them before for some of my other customs. I even got my reroot tool from them. I did not get nylon hair from them this time though. Instead, I got cane colon hair. Of course, it would have helped if I read more about cane colon hair. Upon opening the bag, the hair felt a lot like mine. Apparently, cane colon hair is supposed to be the closest thing resembling human hair than using actual human hair. But at that point, I thought it wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, look at the color, it's fantastic. And as you can see, I already started working on the hairline, and the hair is very, very long. If you're wondering, the buttons wound up popping off of her face, and I had to use super glue later on. This is the reroot tool that I'm using to punch the hair into the doll's head. You see, the eye of the needle is cut in an angle so you can grab the strands of hair and they stay in place until you punch them into the doll's head. As you're also starting to notice, this hair is very thick, probably because it's trying really damn hard to be like human hair, and succeeding at that. But with that said, it's very difficult to work with because it knots up so damn easily. This is hair that just knotted up so bad that I couldn't untangle it. It's like the minute you touch it, it just tangles up so quickly even when you're careful. My hair does the exact same thing, and when I'm having to work with doll hair that acts just like mine, that's not good. But still, we gotta finish the reroot, even if the hair gets to be a pain in the ass. Look, I'm almost done! Now I just need to add the hair to her part line. I make sure that I add more hair to the part line, so that way when I go to thatch her hair, there won't be any bald spots. Finally, at long last, the reroot is complete. But before I can style the hair, I need to add glue inside of the doll's head to make sure that the hair won't come out when I brush it. For that, I'm using Fabric Fusion. It's made by the same people that make tacky glue. I used it on 2 of my doll reroots prior and I didn't really have a problem with it, so this is some pretty good stuff. Right after applying the glue, I gave her earrings made from old sewing pins. I then set the head aside to let the glue dry. While the head's drying, I decided to go finish the other mother's outfit. My sister wound up giving me a pair of her Scaradol shoes, and I thought they would be perfect for this custom doll. So I painted them red to match the ones in the film. Her outfit is almost complete, but there's one thing missing. Her top. The one in the movie looked really complicated, enough to where I know that my version was not going to look nearly as good as that. Or for that matter, anything like that. I attempted to draw a pattern at first, but that didn't really work out, especially since I can't draw. So ultimately, I wound up making a rectangle of fabric, pleated the front, and tied it in the back to make a sleeveless top. And it doesn't look too bad actually, especially how the bottom of the top almost frames the triangles I sewed on earlier. Now I only need to add the sleeves, but how could I pull that off since this top doesn't really have shoulders or a neck? Then it hit me. I took some stretchy white fabric and pinned it to the negative from one of my failed patterns. What I'm doing is that I'm making a white collar for her. This will cover the sleeves I'll attach to her later. And to make it look nice, I'm gonna sew a white button to the front. I am so smart. After a while, the outfit was complete. While it doesn't look exactly like the one in the film, I'm still really happy with how it turned out, and you can tell that it's trying to resemble something from the film. The only thing I'm not liking is how her back is exposed, but I can probably fix that in the future. Now back to the head. Now before I go boil wash the doll's hair, I have to create the doll's part line. When I did reroots in the past, I didn't know that you had to thatch the part line to actually make it the part line. Basically, you just take a plug of the hair from the part line section, split it again, and then crisscross the pieces. Trust me, it's way easier than you think it is. After that, I boil washed her hair off camera. But when I set her out to dry, that's when things took a turn for the worse. I woke up the next morning to discover that the glue in her head had all spilled out. It turned out that the glue that I was using the whole time wasn't water resistant. That also kind of explains some of the problems I had with a couple of the dolls that I used the glue on previously. As you can see, what little glue is still left in her head is wet. Some of the glue got on her hair, which is terrible, but since she's getting a haircut, I wasn't too upset about it. But her hair still needs glue. So I quickly ran to Walmart and picked up Fabric Tack glue. From what I read on the internet, this stuff works wonders for rerooting. That and this stuff is water resistant too, so boil washing won't make the glue wet again. So I quickly add new glue to the doll's head. I wound up putting the head back on the body while the glue was still a little wet, so it dried to her neck, making it really hard to turn her head. Finally, it was time to style the doll's hair. The other mother has a very simple bob that's longer towards the front and shorter in the back, so it wasn't too hard. The Coraline hair is still a pain to work with even when styling, but it's definitely more manageable when it's short. I just don't like it. It even makes it more difficult to style, and to make matters worse, boil washing actually kind of made the quality worse. I then later read up that you can't boil wash Coraline hair. And now she's finished.
I'm your other mother, silly.
Despite the challenges I had while making this doll, I'm very happy with how she turned out, and I think she looks very similar to the character. She's gonna make a great addition to my doll lineup.
Welcome to the family.
I really hope you guys liked this video. It's not perfect right now, but I had a lot of fun making this, and I would like to continue this as a series, so let me down in the comments if you guys enjoyed this. So remember to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Be sure to tell your friends and family about my channel, and if you have any questions for me at all, be sure to ask me in the comments. I will reply. I can't wait to show you guys more of my custom dolls in the future. I'll see you soon. Bye!